We are going to make a simulation on linkage. We start with the simplest case, which is a one bar linkage. Okay, here you can see basically the steps to do this one bar linkage. First, we need to draw a line and then make a reference to a curve component. So this is the curve component. And we draw a line to represent the bar. And then the second thing is to set the starting point as the anchor of the linkage. Anchor means we want to fix a point on the space so that the point will never be moved. So we use this component to find the starting and the end position of the curve. And then we connect this starting point to this anchor component. Later I will show you how to do this step by step. So now I just introduce the overall structure of the entire script. So after we set the anchor of the linkage, then we set the length constraint. So with this length constraint, in the simulation, the length of this bar will be fixed. So here, this is the length constraint. This one is the length constraint. We also get it from Kangaroo 2. Okay, and then we need to set the grab constraint so that you can control with your mouse, so that you can use the mouse to grab a node of the bar and then drag it somewhere. Okay, and the fifth step, we insert Kangaroo solver and set up switch and reset button to control the solver. And the sixth step, we link constraint to the solver. So now we can see the simulation here. This is the solver. And we reset the simulation. So this green line shows the bar. And we turn on the switch. So here the switch is on. And now we can drag with your mouse and then move the bar anywhere. And this point has been set as an anchor, so it is always fixed. Okay, now we switch off the simulation, and I would like to start it from scratch. So I turn this off, double click, so now it stops, and reset. Okay, so we move to an empty space so that we can start from scratch. I remove this. Okay, we draw the bar, and then parameters, we insert a curve component and set a reference to this bar. Click the right mouse button, choose set one curve, select it, make sure that you have successfully made reference to it. Now we want to get the starting point and the end point. So we go to curve, and then with this end point, select it, make sure that you have got the 2 points. And then we want to define the starting point as an anchor. We go to Kangaroo 2. Here, look at the tab. Here, there's a K. So this represents Kangaroo 2. And the point, we want to set a constraint on this point. So you find goals, PD goals means the constraint. we want to make sure that this point to follow some sort of constraints. So the first one, anchor, which means we want to fix this point at some position. Okay, and then the second step, we want to set constraint on the length, because this bar is rigid, so we should not change, the length of it should not be changed in the process of simulation. Okay, so we want to set a constraint on the line. So you see here, goals line, L-I-N, an abbreviation for line, and we set this length constraint. Okay, connect curve to line. Okay, and then the next one, because when in the simulation we want to grab the bar somewhere and then move the position, so we set a constraint called grab here. Okay, this one you don't have to connect to anything, but you can turn it on and off, and then you set the strength of it. We just use the default value. So now we can merge all these constraints and then connect to the solver. The solver is here. You see this kangaroo. Okay, there are different types of solver, but we just use this default one solver. And then we need to connect all these three constraints to the goal object. So we use set and merge to merge them together so that they are in one list, and then we connect to this. Okay. Now we need to add one reset button. You go to here, parameters, and input. There's a button, and we need to have a switch to turn this solver on and off. Here, input, you see here, there is the Boolean toggle, which is a switch so that you can turn it on and off. Now we can turn it on by double click it. Make sure that you select this solver so the simulated object is highlighted. Now we can drag it, okay, and then leave it. There's one more thing I would like to do, is to constrain, to fix the entire bar on the XY plane. So we need to add one more constraint. Go to kangaroo. We set the endpoint of this bar to be on the XY plane. So there is a goes on. Click it. There is a constraint called on plane. Okay, and we want to set the endpoint of this bar to be on XY plane. By default, it's set to be XY plane, but we can make it explicit. So we add this XY plane here, and then also add, okay, because now we are looking from the top view, so you don't see the difference. But if you switch to the front view or the right view, then you'll see with this constraint, the bar will not fall down or move up and leaving the XY plane.